Thanks for the option to introduce our network to you. I'm not really the founder of the network, but although that answer will be, the question will be answered later. I want to give you a short overview of this network. Since we learned that there's also interest like to set up new AllSky7 stations in the Baltic states, in Lithuania and Latvia, and maybe also in Estonia. Of course, this would be a perfect chance to let you know what it is all about, and we would highly welcome to extend our network to these more northeastern parts of Europe. My talk will be about like 4 main topics. First, I will tell you a bit about the history, how the network actually got into the current status. Then I will give you some facts and figures about the cameras, about the network. I will tell you about the network organization. So how do the network members actually arrange themselves, how they share their work. And in the end, I will also give you some examples of observations that we are doing with our cameras, hopefully to convince you that this is really one of the best systems that you can have for meteor and for fireball observations. And in the end, we have a Q&A session. Martin has sent me already a number of questions that you are interested in. It seems to me that about half of these will be answered by my talk, and then the other questions we can simply, in the end, in the Q&A session, answer, so that hopefully in the end you know everything that you need to know about AllSky7. So where did it all start? My history in meteor observation is quite long. So I started like in the 80s of the last century with visual observations, and I did my very first video observations of meteors more than 30 years ago. Let me count. Yes, more than 30 years. That's extremely long. But so far, my focus was always like on ordinary meteors. It was like cameras with small field of view, sensitive cameras, observing faint meteors, maybe also some brighter ones. But I never really operated a full sky camera, an all sky camera that is aimed for fireballs. And then I observed, or I visited the International Meteor Conference in 2018 in Slovakia. And then there was a booth by some American, Mike Henke was his name, who presented a new camera. And I absolutely fell in love with it immediately, because I mean, his approach was, yes, let's set up an all-sky camera, but not use just a fisheye lens, as most of the cameras are doing, because fisheye lenses have their limits with regards to resolution. He actually assembled a number of individual cameras with small field of view to get a full sky coverage. And as I said, I really fell in love with the system, and directly at the conference, I told to Mike, I want to buy this system for you. I wanted to give it a try. And actually this system, which is visible here, was then mounted a few months later on the roof of my house, and it's still operating there. It's now AMS 16. So this is how it all started, how I got in touch with this AllSky, by that time still AllSky 6 camera system. And when I bought this camera, I mounted it side by side with a 3-point camera. This is actually a camera system which was invented by our French guys, by our French friends, already back in 2015. And they have also set up a big network. Their plan was to establish about 100 cameras in France, and they have meanwhile achieved. And I was also by that time testing one of these 3-point cameras, and so I simply mounted them side by side and let them run for about a year to really find out what is the pros, what is the cons of each of these systems, of each of these different approaches, and which one I would like most. And I presented the results 1 year later, again at an IMC in 2019. And here's a screenshot of my conclusion slide. The conclusion was, yes, AllSky7, the focus is really on high resolution, on high sensitivity. So from technical perspective, this camera is definitely superior to a 3-point camera, which is just like one camera with a fisheye lens. Also, the focus of AllSky7 is like, on the one hand, on agility, so really fast development of features, fast development on software, but also on costs. So in the end, such a AllSky 6 camera was clearly cheaper than a 3-point camera. And so I decided, together with some friends in Germany, let's give it a try, not just with one camera, but really let's start with a small network. And in the beginning, we were 3 guys of us, Andre, Jörg, and myself, who bought 3 of these cameras who set up 3 of these cameras in northern Germany and now gained some real experience in a small network. And this has happened around like 2019 when we started. You will see a map later on. And as we gained experience with the cameras, we also did certain improvements. So we realized that there are certain child diseases, and approached Mike and suggested to him, Mike, what about if we change this, if we change that? And most of these ideas were implemented. And just to give you an idea, so this was the original state of my camera back in 2018 when I bought it. The first thing was in March 2019 that we replaced the camera modules. So there was a new version, a camera version available in China, which was more sensitive. They are using the IMX291 CMOS chip by Sony, and this immediately increased the sensitivity of the system. Later, a major upgrade was in 2020, when we actually upgraded from AllSky6 to AllSky7. What was that all about? Well, when I analyzed in detail the recording with this setup, and the setup is you have 5 cameras in the horizontal direction and 1 camera facing to zeniths, then I found there are certain regions in the sky which are not covered. And I told to Mike, if you want to sell the system to someone who is really interested in AllSky, it must be AllSky. There cannot be parts of the sky which are not covered. Why not replacing the single camera in the zenith by 2 cameras, one facing north, the other one facing south to the zenith? There is sufficient space under the dome, and this is actually what we did. And now we really achieve AllSky coverage. In some edges, it's really close, so you have to align the cameras carefully. But really, with this AllSky7 setup, and this is how we call it today, we have now the full sky coverage. 3 years later, no, actually not 3 years later, just 1 year later, we did another little improvement. What was this all about? You see that here on top, we have now placed a fisheye lens. Of course, the idea of the fisheye lens is not now to extend the field of view or get better accuracy. This is what we achieve with the other cameras. But we were thinking professional cameras also have some photometer, some high-speed photometer to really get accurate photometry. And with these sensitive cameras, they are so sensitive that if there's a really bright fireball, they're getting a saturation, and it may be hard to really measure the fireball. And so to install a photometer, that would be complicated, also not so easy, not so quite expensive. And so we said, let's do again the poor man's version of a photometer. Let's put just a fisheye camera on top. And if there's a really bright fireball, we will record it with the other cameras, but we will also have at least one record with this fisheye camera, which hopefully gives us also photometry information of these really bright events. So this is, from that time on, we're calling them AllSky7 Plus, with a plus standing for this additional camera. And there was a last change in hardware introduced earlier this year in April, when we switched to a new camera generation. We are not using any longer the Sony IMX291 CMOS chip. We are now switching to the 307 chip, which is not so much more sensitive like for meteors, for moving objects. There it has about the same sensitivity, but it has an even improved compression algorithm. And for constant background, like star background, like so stars, the background, whatever there is, aurora, noctilucent cloud, whatever there is, which is not fast moving, the camera is much more sensitive for this. You will easily recognize it if you go to our homepage at night. You have these live images from the camera, and if you compare a live image from the IMX291 or from one of the few new cameras, you will immediately see the difference, that there's at least 1 or 2 more magnitudes in stars that you can see. So this was the latest step. This is the kind of camera that we are selling today. So it's AllSky7 Plus and HS for high sensitivity, which means it's using this new sensor version. So besides these obvious changes, there were some not so obvious changes, like we put some rubber seal in between the dome and the base plate, because we realized if there's some rain, still water could go into the camera. We have introduced painting to the dome because we soon realized that the dome without painting looks nice, and you see the camera interior, but it may cause reflections, in particular at nighttime, which are disturbing. And even more relevant, the dome or the camera will heat significantly, in particular if you have some hot summer days, and then it will simply get too hot inside the dome. And when we paint the dome with black inside and white outside, then we can at least keep most of the sunshine out. And we usually observe that the inner temperature within the dome is about like 10 to 12 degrees above the outside temperature, which means that even if we have really hot summer days in Germany, maybe up to 35 degrees centigrade, it's still not getting too hot for the camera. So that was one of the improvements that we did. And last not least, I also assembled like 1 or 2 travel editions. So cameras which can be taken abroad and which can be powered by a car battery. And we have used this setup, for example, for the 2022 expedition, the Tau Hercules to Texas. So this whole setup, if you do some adjustment for the power supply, can also be used like in a travel edition when you are not having it fixed on your roof, but when you are abroad observing some special event. Okay, that was just the hardware part, but that's only part of the story, because I mean the very first hardware from the first 2 or 3 cameras were shipped directly from Mike to me, and I assembled them and sold them here to friends in Germany. But we soon realized that this would not scale, because already the first discussion that I had with German customs, when I got a parcel with 10 cameras, that was a nightmare. And now I wouldn't want to have to do it like every other camera. I have meanwhile now imported hundreds and hundreds of cameras. So you need to have it on solid ground, on some business ground. And since my wife has already a small business, we have simply extended her small business, which is funny. So her small business is now, she's a life coach, and she's assembling astronomical cameras. So 2 things which fit perfectly to each other. No, I'm kidding. But at least now that we have a formal business to assemble these camera, this reduces significantly the custom problem, as I mentioned. It means we can ship the hardware. Almost all of the hardware is actually created in China. We can ship the hardware directly from China here to Germany. We save taxes, it's faster. And also I can now formally create quotes and invoices. So if it's not just among friends, but if I want to sell the camera to clubs, to observatories, to institutes, universities, they usually require some quote and some invoicing. This can all be done, and taxes paid and so on. I can also now do like tax-free sales, so outside the EU or inside the EU, if someone has his own VAT number, this is all possible. Of course, the disadvantage is there is some bureaucratic overhead that I have to take on. Yeah, you know that if you have a small business, this causes some hassle with all the tax agency. But yeah, long story short, that was really necessary, and it helps us really to scale the whole model, which means the agreement with Mike. So I came up, I agreed with him in mid 2020 that I will assemble the cameras for the EU. It is still his design, it is still his idea, and he's also like, from the money that we earn, this will be transferred to him. But I will do it for the EU, and there we have like not to ship twice, and we do not have the hassle with taxes and so on. And this is how we do it today. And this is why I am involved so deeply, that almost all of the cameras that you will see in our map were actually assembled by me over the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, and this is actually now here a little time-lapse view that shows how our network has evolved. Down there you see the months. Actually, it does not go to the very last months to August 2024, because then you would also see that the new station by Marcus will show up here in Lithuania. I did not manage to really upgrade this little movie, but you see that it all started in the beginning in Germany, and then we extended also to Benelux state. We have a very strong stand here in Hungary, starting from about 2021. Then we did some extension to Iberia Peninsula, to Spain, Portugal, also to UK. Then in 2023, we had first cameras in Greece. Meanwhile, also some more cameras like in Eastern Poland. As I mentioned, the first camera sponsored by Marcus and Lithuania. So you see the network in Europe is growing. and we have meanwhile about 100 stations active in Europe. And this is just part of the story, because, as I said, I am only in charge of Europe, so I will assemble and sell the cameras in Europe. Mike is taking care like at the global scale, and particular for the US, and then also in other regions we have already, or we are trying to set up also local partners who are assembling and selling and maintaining the cameras locally. But speaking about Europe, that's actually our business, and I will show you in a minute who is involved in this business and who are our customers. Well, we started primarily with amateur astronomers, but in particular, like over the last year, we also got many observatories, museums, universities, research institutes. So I would say that still the majority are amateurs like you and me, but we have maybe like, meanwhile, I don't know, 20%, 30%, which are these kind of institutions, which is good on the other hand, which brings other challenges, in particular when it comes to support. But in the end, of course, it is good that we have also like professional support from not just amateurs, but from people who are doing that as their profession. Right, so much about the history. Now you know where we currently are. Now let's have some more facts about the equipment, facts and figures. So I mentioned already, we are using cameras with different chipsets. So sometimes they have the high silicon, sometimes they have the Gyoki chipset. That's particularly relevant for the Americas because certain chipsets are not allowed there. What they have all in common is the sensor, which is like for the vast majority of the cameras, the IMX291, and those which were recently assembled. And if I will sell cameras to you, then they will also contain the new chip, the IMX307. They have a 4mm lens, focal length, and f2.1.0 is the f-stop, and this gives us for each of the cameras a field of view of about 85 by 45 degrees. And the stellar limiting magnitude, like in the running video for the new camera, is like about +4 to +5. So it's not matching to our human eye, but it's not that far, to be honest. So it looks already quite nice. What I particularly like about this, so this makes the camera not just a fireball camera, but really it's a hybrid camera. It's a camera that you can use for fireball, for very bright objects, but also for ordinary meteors, which is the one that I'm most interested in. I'm more in ordinary meteor science, meteor showers, outbursts, and so on. And with these kind of cameras, you can do both. You can go for fireballs, you can go for meteorite hunts, but you can also do research for ordinary meteor showers. So we have these 5 cameras, which are mounted horizontally, looking in all directions, and then camera 6 and 7, north and south of the zenith, and with the AllSky7 Plus, the 8th camera with a 1.30mm fisheye lens, with almost 180 degree, which is of course less sensitive. I mean, this is also what we want to have. So it has about a stellar limiting magnitude of -1 mag. This is like the cameras, and each of these cameras is providing 2 video streams, H.264 encoded, 1 video stream standard definition, 704 by 556 pixel, and the other HD stream is 1920 by 1080. So which means that overall, the little computer, which we will see in the next image, is retrieving 16 different video streams. That's indeed all that the camera is doing. So there is no logic in here. It's really, these cameras are just recording and are sending via IP a video stream to the computer. There's no other logic in here. So of course we have a power supply, we have an Ethernet switch here, but there's no computer or anything integrated. This is just recording devices, cameras, which are sending the data via IP. And also the power supply is done via IP. So we have just one cable which connects the computer with the camera, and via this cable we have both data, and we also provide the power for the camera, which is good. So you do not have to install 2 cables, just one cable is sufficient. And then I mentioned the counterpart is this little computer. So this is a mini computer, which we also usually sell together with a camera. Why do we sell it together? Why do we not say, well, take your own computer? I mean, this device here is nothing specific. Well, 2 things. Again, of course, since our system is cost optimized, we are looking for relatively cheap hardware. And second, more important, if you want to operate and support a network of 100+ cameras as amateurs, it is absolutely crucial that they are highly identical. It is not always working. As I mentioned in the beginning, we have already not only amateurs, we have museums, we have institutes, and whereas amateur can open certain ports at this firewall to the internet, museums are not allowed to. So that makes it already complicated. But in principle, all of these 100 stations which are out there have more or less the same hardware, and this allows persons like Marcus and me and Mike with limited effort, it's still a lot of effort, but with limited effort to really support all these cameras and patch them and fix bugs if there's anything. So this is the reason why we strongly advise, do not buy any computer, but take the one that we sell together with a camera. And the computer itself is, again, is nothing special. It's like, here's a specification. It has a relatively, not so powerful J4122 CPU, 8 gigs of RAM. Then we have 2 hard disks there. There's a 64 gigabyte SSD for operating system. It used to have a data disk of 1 terabyte in HDD. Meanwhile, we learned that like after 3 or 4 to 5 years of really 24/7 operation, the HDD start to deteriorate and start to die soon. So in the future, we also switch to little bigger 2 terabyte and 2 SSDs here. These computers have 2 Ethernet ports because one is to connect the computer to the internet, the other is to connect the computer to the camera, and we are fine. So this is how it looks like. It's really just a small box. And again, all the logic is in this little device here. So the cameras are streaming their data stream in 1 minute chunks. The video files are written onto the data disk. And then on this little computer, there runs a 2-pass detection software. And the first pass is like a standard meteor detection. So more or less, you look what has changed in this image, what is getting brighter over a certain amount of time. And then, I mean, that's quite sensitive, but you have also many false detection by birds, by raindrops, which causing reflections, by airplanes, satellites, you name it. So we have meanwhile implemented a second detection pass, which is some AI. I should write AI because KI is a German word for it. So some artificial intelligence model, some machine model, which is again classifying all the detections from the first pass. So is this really a meteor fireball, or is it more probably an airplane, a bird, whatever? And that really helped to improve the accuracy. So we have some particular fatal cases. For example, we have a camera in northern Germany where there are seagulls, because it's close to the North Sea, and it's a city with bright city lights, and then you have these white seagulls flying above the camera, and they were causing hundreds and hundreds of false detections because these are bright objects moving there. And particular to this, thanks to this AI model, we could significantly reduce, although in these critical cases, the number of false detections. Of course, it's not 100% accurate, but it's really working quite well this time, so that we have only very few false detections left. The camera itself is running 24/7, so it's recording around the clock. The computer is recording the video stream around the clock, but this automatic detection takes only place for nighttime videos. Simply, it's a question of time, because we save time if we do not have to process daytime videos, and also for daytime, for analyzing daytime videos for possible daytime fireballs, the false positive rate would be at least 99%. So it would be almost impossible to really safely detect daytime fireballs, which means if we record a daytime fireball, we have to rely on someone who's letting us know, hey, I observed something, I saw something, please check your recording. And this works out quite fine. We have in IMO, the International Meteor Observation, we have this fireball report form, which is freely available in the internet. Everyone who sees anything can just report it to us. And if there's a daytime fireball, and we had at least, I would say, 5 to 10 daylight fireballs over the last 5 to 6 years, we are typically getting alerted, so we can secure the videos also from daytime and can process them. What happens if they are processed? The detections are uploaded to the cloud. We'll come to that in a minute. not the whole videos, just the information about detected meteors, and then the video files are overwritten. So the HD video files after about 3 days, the lower resolution SD files after about 1 month, which means that really, if there's an interesting event, be it a daytime fireball, be it anything else, that our system will not automatically detect, we have about 3 days time that someone is alerting us, and we can secure the high definition video data. Otherwise, they are gone, and we just have the SD video data left. So this is a task of this little guy, of this little box. And then we have also the second part of the software, which is running in the cloud. So whenever the mini PC has detected something, so the mini PC is controlling the cameras, recording the videos, we mentioned that already, doing the refinement, doing the astrometry and photometry, so also measuring the meteor, that is done on the little mini computer. But then the data is uploaded to the cloud, and there Mike is running some software which is correlating the events from the different station. And then if it finds out, okay, there's a meteor which was recorded by more than one station, which is meanwhile, given the density of our network in Germany, it's not the exception, it's more the normal. The exception is that we have a meteor which is not recorded by at least 2 or 3 stations. And then, it is then again, loading some additional data from the mini PCs that it can really complete the trajectory calculation and the orbit calculation, but also there, not the large amounts of data uploaded like HD files, many megabyte in size, but really just small thumbnails or small crumbs of the videos. So we really try to keep the traffic of data which is sent from the station up to the cloud to keep it as small as possible. I come to that in the end, really, how much data we have per month. All the software is written by Mike, so this is really all his duty, and it's also still under heavy development. So it's really continuously developed. There's hardly ever a stable version, and also makes it a little difficult. So we also have not really a good documentation because things are changing so quickly. The more important point that I want to point out here is that what I sell is always just the hardware. The software is not sold because the software belongs to Mike. But if you join the AllSky7 network, and I come to in a minute that there is some terms and conditions, what we expect from you, what you can expect from us. If you sign this, then you get the software for free. And I mean, this is the default. Everyone, of course, wants to join the network, is signing these terms and conditions. And so you get the license for free as a free community license. But I want to mention it here. What we are selling is just the hardware. And also, I mean, there are costs involved, not only like for developing all the software, but also for running the stuff in the cloud. And this is at the moment all covered by Mike, which is quite nice. Now, some more facts and figures from experience. So in my very first operation of the AMS-16 cameras, you remember the very first one, I recorded about 5,000 meteors per year in the first year. So it really, as I said, it's not just a system which is recording fireballs, but really it will record also ordinary fainter meteors. And what is now really the cost for a system? I have quoted here about 1,500 euro for a complete system ready to run, which means you get the camera head with these 8 cameras, you get the mini computer, which is pre-configured. All that you have to provide is a mount, which is a water pipe, a 1-inch water pipe, which is vertical, where you can put the camera on top, then an Ethernet cable from there to the mini computer, and Ethernet and power internet and power for the mini computer. That's all that you have to provide. All the rest comes from us. And these 1,500, why is it about 1,500? To be precise, the camera itself costs 1,350 euro. Plus, on top, we have shipping costs, which vary a little, typically like about 50 euro within Europe. And we have to pay, of course, since this is all now formally done with a small business, we have to pay German VAT, which is 19%. Unless if you have your own small business in Latvia, then I can sell it also without German VAT. Then you will pay it from your own VAT. But so if we like add up to the 1,350 plus the shipping plus the VAT, it's more close to like 1,600 euro. This is what you will have to pay for one camera. As I said, it's a complete system which is pre-configured and more or less plug and play ideally. So there's not a lot of additional things that you have to provide. And there is, since all these cameras are manually assembled by me, and this is not my full-time job, my daytime job is I'm working as an IT guy at a big German company. This is also for me my hobby. I have, of course, just limited capacity to assemble cameras, and so we are not selling the system to everyone, but we only sell systems to locations where we really see that these locations will sensibly extend our network, which means, for example, these days I do not sell any more cameras to Germany because Germany is really well covered, and also not to Hungary, which is also perfectly covered, but only like, for example, to the Baltic states. I would be really happy to provide new cameras because there we would really extend our network in Europe in a sensible manner. I put down here that we want to achieve a distance between like 100 to 150 kilometers between the stations. So this is like a compromise that on the one hand, if you're placing the cameras more closely, the triangulation angle is too small, so you would not get the required accuracy. On the other hand, if you space a camera at larger distances, then there may be too few stations which record the meteor. So this is like a rule of thumb, but you do not really have to nail us down. So even in Germany, we have some sites which are closer to each other, and there may be some gaps where it's maybe like 170 kilometer distance or something like this. It's really just an indication of what we try to achieve. And so that's what I mean here. I'm not selling camera to everyone. It really hurts. It lets my heart bleed if someone asks me, I'm interested, I want to have a camera. And I must say, no, sorry, there's already a camera right next to you. But that's the way it is. Unless maybe in the future, if we have some commercial manufacturer, then of course it's free to everyone. But on the other hand, I mean, to have this like a reduced number of cameras that we can create has also the advantage that our network is growing step by step, is growing more in a natural way, because all our processes around also have to keep speed. And that's really important. You will learn that in a minute, who is all involved there. So this helps us really to, yeah, as I said, to grow in a natural way and then not explode. And then we have cameras everywhere in the world, but we have just crap data that we get, or we cannot handle it. So this is what we achieved. And what we have done, meanwhile, camera sponsoring, Marcus is a good example. So if you have already a camera and you say, but I'm interested, I want to have another one, or if you want to buy a camera, but at your site or in your vicinity is already another camera, then we can offer this camera sponsoring. Like in this case, Marcus has already one, but he wanted to sponsor another one. And in this case, he had a relative in Lithuania where the camera could be placed. But we can also arrange it. For example, we have done it like 2 or 3 times in Greece, where we have good sites, interested amateurs over there, which simply cannot afford a camera on their own. So then someone over here is buying the camera, is shipping it to Greece. It's still his own camera, but it's not mounted at his house, it's its own roof, but it's mounted at some good site, for example, in Greece. And so we have like the advantage that we can extend our network in a sensible manner, but still we can, if someone here is interested in Germany, for example, we can still sell a camera to him. So that is something which is which has started and meanwhile has been successful some time. And now let's come to the organization, because really a network of 100 plus cameras, it's nice. It's nice from the technical perspective, but it's also quite complicated to still arrange this, that really we have not just 100 cameras, each of them working on its own, but really to have a network. And this is how we are currently arranged. So in the middle, we have our mastermind. We have Mike, who is like in charge of the worldwide coordination. He is in charge of the hardware design, where we usually give like advice if we want to have some things changed. And he's doing all the software development. And then we have a core team of 4 guys who are dealing with the work here in Europe. That's myself. I'm in charge like of the assembly of the camera. I'm in charge of onboarding of new camera station, of new observers, and I will take care of our homepage. And then once the camera is up and running, more or less Marcus is taking over. So he's taking care of the support and maintenance of existing camera stations. So if some things are not working properly, if the software is making problem, if software patches have to be applied, this is where Marcus pays attention for. We have Andre, who is taking care of publication of data. So if there's a bright fireball that the data is quickly collected and made available to the press and our homepage. He is also has implemented this monitor. So if we have a monitor running on the systems, and if something is not as expected, some process is not running, the HD is getting full or whatever there might be, we can send out alarms. And Jörg is also the man in the back who is helping if we have camera stations where the camera operator does not have the time to take care of the data himself, like myself, for example. Then Jörg is taking over and checking for the observation and is supporting. So this is like the core team who is supporting and organizing the European network. And then, of course, we have a large community of camera operators, really of owners of cameras, who are forming a kind of virtual community, who are exchanging ideas, who are exchanging experience. We will see in a minute that's mostly done by email, and we really can say it has grown to a big community. So this effort is we started with 3, as you know, in the very beginning, and meanwhile we have with 100 cameras at least as many camera operators in this community. So it's really there's a vivid exchange of experiences, of ideas. That's really a lot of fun to work in there. And what we also have is terms and conditions. So what is it? Why do we need this? Well, you know, when we started this with 3 guys who know each other for decades, then of course we understand each other blindly. But I mean, if the camera network is growing to 20, 40, 50, 100 persons, which you do not know in person any longer, then it should be really clear what is the network all about. What do we expect from each other? What is it allowed? What shall we do? What shall we not do? And to make that perfectly clear, we started in 2020 to set up these term and condition which really describe what is a network good for? What is our purpose? Yeah. Who can join our network and how can you join and how can you leave this network? What are your rights and duties as a network member? What about copyright? What about referencing if you have data, if you want to publish data? Also, if you want a remote support system, what are the requirements that we can have remote support? What about liability? So all these things are drafted here. Every now and then we update these terms and conditions, and this is linked to our homepage. You can click on it, you can read it. It should be no surprise to you. Again, as I said, this is really that everyone of this large community has the same understanding of what we want to achieve, and also what you can expect from the whole network and what we expect from each individual network member. This is our homepage, AllSky7.net. You probably have visited already. Just before our call, I updated the screenshot here. So you see, this is a latest status. We have, meanwhile, 2 cameras in the eastern part of Poland, and even one very close to you that Marcus has recently installed in Lithuania. So we have this map. The color actually codes also the status of the camera. And you see there's quite many stations which are not green. So this is also something that I had to learn over time. Well, with the first 20 cameras, almost everything was green all the time. But the more cameras you have, then there's always some cameras which have some trouble. So blue means you cannot reach the camera at the moment. Red means, yeah, the camera can be reached, but something is not working properly. So this is like a never-ending story. If you operate such a network over such a long time, there will always be some cameras which have some trouble, and then Marcus or myself jump in and try to help out if the local camera operator cannot do it. So ideally, everything should be green here. In practice, it's not always. So we have this camera map. We have also a live image, which is not really live in a sense, but like every 15 minutes, we take a still image from each of the cameras, and this can be then seen in the internet and our homepage. We have this what we call weather view. So we have really, you can scroll down and you have a quick overview over all the 100 stations, 700, 800 cameras that we are currently running. We have the Fireball archive. It's not a complete archive in the sense that every Fireball that we are recording is stored there, but it's more like the highlights. So whenever we observe something special, something spectacular, then Andre is creating a copy and putting it like as kind of advertisement onto our homepage. We have also an archive of other events, and I will tell you later what other events we are recording. And this gives also, the homepage gives also general information about the AllSky7 network. And the organization within the network, as I said, it's mostly via email. So we have a number of mailing lists that everyone can subscribe, not only camera operators. Also, if you're just interested and may become a camera operator in the future, you are welcome to join. We have some mailing list where just the core team is subscribed. So if you have a problem with your camera, you can report it there and we try to help you. We have also an announce mailing list, which is just for us, for announcement. And then we have more or less regular, also what we call regulars corner, so meetings via Zoom, usually every 2 or 3 months. Well, I think this year the distance between the meetings was a little bigger, but yes, every few months we have such a meeting as you have it here right now, where we share news about the network, about the development of the network hardware, software. Every now and then we do a training for camera operators, so we explain in detail how the camera looks like and how it works. And these trainings are recorded, so you can also go back to our file archive and you can have a look at earlier recordings of these trainings. It is also just an informal exchange between the camera operators. The last one was in like 2 weeks ago. That was specifically devoted to photometry issues. So we have a student from Munich University who is doing research really in these camera modules that we are using. What kind of electronics they have, really can they be used for photometry? What caveats are there? So also these like specific topics are addressed every now and then in these regular corners. And then, of course, we are publishing our results and our network and the instrumentation. There was one paper by Mike in Planetary and Space Science, which describes the overall network. We are publishing, like if we have bright fireballs, not only on our homepage, but also like on the YouTube channel. And then also every now and then, if there's a big event like recently in Germany, the Elmshorn or the Ripbeck meteorite fall, we have, of course, good media coverage in radio and in TV. So this is like, where our results are published and where people are get attracted and learn about our network. So it's really that we do not have to advertise actively. It's really by this type of mouse-to-mouse communication where people learn about AllSky7 and get interested. And since each camera records about 5,000 meteors a year, you can easily calculate that the whole network records more than 100,000 meteors every year from multiple stations. And multiple stations really means that in some extreme cases, bright fireballs, near nice weather over Central Europe, that we have up to 30 stations that record one and the same event. So here's one, I think it was from 2022. You see like how many cameras have recorded this one. Of course, that's overshooting. I mean, in order to get a good trajectory, to get a good orbit, you would not need 30 stations. But on the other hand, of course, this is like perfect conditions. In reality, it's typically clouded here, or maybe another station has problems and so on. So that in practice, we only rarely have really such a good coverage. And the nice thing is that really with our network, we have recorded every single meteorite fall in Europe since 2019. So there was a Flensburg meteorite, the very first one, was showed in the end in 2019. We recorded the Kindberg meteorite in 2020, which was recovered half a year later. The Winchcombe meteorite of 2021 in the UK. In 2023, last year, we had like 3 meteorite falls, one in France, one in Italy, the big stone which fell down in Elmshorn, almost 3 kilograms or more than 3 kilograms. And of course, the highlight of this year was certainly 2024 BX1, this asteroid, which was detected 3 hours before it actually collided with Earth. We recorded, and later also meteorites were found. We were actively involved in the meteorite search. That was, of course, our biggest success so far over here in Europe. But it's not only meteors, you will see it in a minute, not only fireballs. The ordinary meteor data, like from the fainter meteors, they are all kept in an archive, but this archive is still a work in progress. It's not really made available to the public because there's still a lot of work which needs to be done, but in principle it's already there, and you can see, like, from single nights you can create like these kind of fancy maps where you see ground projection of all the meteors which were recorded, or also you can create radiant maps for a single night, and then you see here like probably the what is it, the apex, or one other sporadic source. So this kind of meteor research information is also available, but this is also still largely a work in progress. Every now and then I have to push Mike and remember to not only focus on fireballs, but also like do this ordinary meteor science stuff. But at least the basics is there. And then what else do we record? Well, we recorded, I will show that in the next slide, a meteor cluster, which is an extremely rare event, a cluster where we recorded like about 20 meteors within a few seconds. And just 1.5 weeks ago, there was this IMC of this year, and there was a talk about meteor clusters, and there's just about a handful of, or let's say a dozen of such meteor clusters ever recorded in the whole history of meteor observation. So this was really an extremely rare event, one of the best one ever recorded. We have recorded numerous aurora, in particular also this year, when aurora were visible until mid-northern latitudes, easily visible from Germany and even from more southern states. We have meanwhile recorded plenty of rocket launches, including also these well-known Starlink satellite chains. We have recorded many satellite re-entries, so which also look like spectacular fireballs, extremely slow, and then you see the thing that's integrating. We are recording atmospheric events like halos. Even we have already recorded halos around fireballs. You know, halos are typically around the sun or around the moon, but if there's a fireball bright enough and the right kind of cirrus clouds, you may have really for a second the chance to record a halo around the fireball. And we managed. Actually, Peter, who's here at the call, also was one of the lucky guys who has recorded such an event. Noctilucent cloud, it was mentioned by Martin before that this is one of your research interests also in Germany. We are regularly observing noctilucent clouds. They are perfectly recorded by our cameras. You can do all kind of triangulation, whatever you like. Red sprites, so these kinds of lightnings which are directed towards space and not towards Earth. We have recorded them on multiple locations, and all kind of other. So you name it, whatever is visible in the sky, in the daytime sky or nighttime sky, we can record it with a quite dense network of cameras. And so there's good chance that we have a trace of it. And once more, I mentioned that before. Also, some of these exceptional events are listed on our homepage under other events, so that you can also get an indication what else we can record beside fireballs and meteors. And this brings me almost to the end. I have now like a few highlights of observations that we did. Let's see if this works out. So for example, this is a meteor cluster. I mentioned already, here we have a sum image. You see that all these little streaks, all these are meteors. And now let me click the link. It will load, actually go directly to our homepage and link to this particular event. So you see this meteor cluster was recorded by our station in Norway, one of our stations. And then if I run the video, I hope you can see it. First we see here 1, 2, 3 meteors down here, and now all of a sudden you see many streaks among the screen. So what is the science behind that? As I said, this was just a topic of a talk at the International Meteor Conference the week before. The science is that really a larger meteorite breaks up just before entering the Earth's atmosphere, so that the little parts are still relatively close to each other, and then enter the Earth's atmosphere independently, and then you may have this kind of meteor cluster. We recorded numerous daylight fireballs. Also here, let me show you an example. Again, jumps to our homepage. So this one was actually recorded by myself, by my station close to Munich in southern Germany. Again, this is the sum image. You see it's broad daylight. And then if I run a video, you will see in a second here. Here we go. The fireball, which of course at nighttime would be like dazzling bright, probably like, I don't know, -15 or something. So it was also easily visible in daylight. We had records from multiple stations, so we could also calculate the trajectory here. But in this particular case, it was unfortunately not a meteorite dropper, so that was simply too fast. That was completely disintegrated the meteoroid in the atmosphere. But yeah, all of these daytime events are recorded. Here we have a nice view of a satellite re-entry. Let me click on that and jump over here again. Let's see, I think the most interesting one is the last video. Let's go for probably this one. You see it was recorded by a number of cameras, since it crossed almost over the full sky. I don't know whether I can jump forward. Maybe we have to wait a second. So this was in 2022, if my memory is right. This was really a satellite which we entered the Earth's atmosphere and disintegrated. And then you see already here that really looks spectacular when the satellite breaks apart, and like all these like tens or hundreds of fragments are then lighting up in the atmosphere. Looking like little fireballs and meteors on their own. So all of these kinds of events. Then the Flensburg meteorite fall, maybe not so spectacular from the visual appearance, but since it was our very first one, and you will see it was really a lucky record that we did. By that time, we just had 3 camera stations deployed, and you see it was totally overclouded. Well, almost totally. There was one little cloud gap here, and sure enough, the camera operator was lucky enough to record this daytime fireball here in this little gap. And interestingly, it was really this recording here which taught us that this meteorite did not fall into the North Sea, but in fact fall on land close to the German-Danish border. And we went there for research, and indeed a meteorite was found, not by us, but by a local landowner. And this is here a picture. It was really a rare meteorite, actually first of its kind. So this was a meteorite type which was never found before. Let's have another one maybe here, the Winchcombe meteorite of 2021. Let's have a look at this one, also to give you an impression how this looks like. This was actually 2 stations, one in the Benelux in Belgium, one in England. And let's have maybe a look here at the England station. So this is how a meteorite dropper looks like. There's always a little reflection here. You will see that in many of our recordings, that's actually not really a twin meteorite. That's really an internal reflection between the lens of the camera and the dome. That's not nice, and we think about certain improvements that we can get rid of this. But in the end, I mean, from scientific perspective, it's not really hurting. And you see in the end, this meteorite disintegrates into different fragments. And that's always a good sign that maybe something has survived. And in this case, it did. And here, this is like a little image from the meteorite which was found on the ground. Red sprites is an example. Let's click on this one here as well. Red sprites, so as I mentioned, these lightning which is directed towards space and not towards Earth. There was a big thunderstorm cell in over Serbia by that time. So of course here it was totally overcasted, but cameras which were far enough away, like a few hundred kilometers, and had clear skies, they actually watching toward the horizon, they could like monitor the space above this big thunderstorm cloud, and so they could record these sprites. And this is now not real time. This is now copied together, different recordings, because these sprites typically are just 1 or 2 video frames long, very, very short events. But also here, this is like science of progress. You can do now triangulation and really determine where exactly these sprites occurred, if we have several stations, at what altitude, and so on. So also this is something which we can provide here. Maybe have one more look from this camera, because also here, I think this camera was a little closer. We have really nice close-up views of these red sprites. Okay. And then last not least, Aurora. This one here is a recording which is a little older, which was obtained back in 2022. Meanwhile, in particular this year, we have even more exciting recordings. Here it was a station which was in Denmark, and you see, you can easily see like the green and the blue, green and red, sometimes purple part of the aurora. And now, believe me, with the new cameras, with the IMX307 cameras, this becomes even more brighter, even more attractive, because the cameras are so much more sensitive towards slow-moving objects. All right, and then almost to the end, I have to mention also Ribbeck, like our highlight of this year. This is a recording by my own camera. Again, the very first one that I bought 6 years ago, which is mounted on top of my house. And then this fireball occurred in January 21st of this year. We had a number of cameras which recorded the fireball from all directions, but my own camera was actually closest to us. It was just in the end like 20 kilometers away from the impact point. And you see in the very end really the nice disintegration of the meteorite into many different fragments. And this is here one specimen which was found. And here is like a strewn field that we have obtained. Is actually the best strewn field ever, which was recorded for meteorite fall. On the upper left side, you see the brighter fragments, like up to 100, 200 grams. And then the lighter the fragments become, the farther they were blown away. So in this region, we found like a specimen between like 20 to 50 grams, although Peter specimen was found here in this region, more like the 10-gram meteorites. And then down here, the vast majority like 1 or 2 grams or 3 grams in that size. So that was, of course, the major highlight of this year. At last not least, to have some smile, sometimes we also record UFOs. Here is a proof. This is a UFO that we have recorded, I think, yeah, here it says in 2021. And when my friend Karsten actually sent me this video, I thought he was joking on me. I said, okay, it's 1st of April. Yes. No, it was not a full state joke. That was really a video. And okay, sorry, it's not visible here, but you can see it on our homepage. Give me a second. Where is my presentation? I have to go back to presentation mode. One moment. All right. So he proved to me that really when he showed me the video, that this is right. There was really a screwdriver flying through his field of view. Actually, it was some balloon which was like making advertisement, and so the balloon has a shape of a screwdriver. But that was really funny. So we have also like not normal recordings, but also sometimes funny recordings, like screwdrivers flying or floating through space. And that is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I will switch on light here on my end because it's getting dark, it seems. And then, of course, the audience is open for questions. Either you can raise questions yourself, or we can also have a look at your list of questions that you prepared, and everything which has not been answered so far can be discussed now. Thanks for your attention.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you, Sirko. It was very comprehensive overview, and I think there will be some questions. First, I will give opportunity to other participants. Okay. Yeah, I see one question is in chat. Is mist or fog a problem?
I will answer the question twofold. Of course, like if there's mist outside and fog outside, of course, yes. I mean, it's the same problem that you have as visual observer, but you probably mean if the camera itself, if there could be some fog, which is like some condensation at the dome.
From inside,
yeah, inside the dome. My answer is in most cases it is not a problem. Well, in the beginning, we had no problem at all with any of the cameras. Why? Because the cameras are getting quite hot. We have these 7 or 8 camera modules, and if you really touch them, you will ouch. You will say, "Oh, that's really hot." So overall, they produce a lot of heat. We have like about 15 watts, which is spent by the cameras, and this really heats the air inside the dome. But it's not helping always. And to be honest, I can't tell you why specific cameras indeed have a problem with fog. I would say like maybe 5% of our cameras do have an issue. And there, the solution is that we have some colleagues in Scandinavia, for example, they apply active heating. So because they have really cold nights, they put some heating inside the camera. We also sometimes work with silica gel, which you put into the camera to get it dry. But long story short, for the vast majority, it's not an issue. It's really some rare cases, and we have not fully understand why certain cameras are prone to this kind of fog and others are not. I mean, the camera is almost hermetically sealed. It's not really hermetically sealed, but principle, since we have this rubber between the base plate and the dome, it's almost hermetically sealed. But again, in some cases, it is an issue, but even there's a fix available.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions from our participants? Okay, there are, yeah. So one question is from Juris. By the way, Juris is the person behind those triangulations for our Noctilucent cloud project. I sent you the link so that we are able to geolocate our clouds on a map and also to determine the altitude from at least 2 or 3 or even 5 simultaneous observations. Okay, and the question is how the altitude orientation estimation of cameras are done. Is it in software?
So this is all done in software. So the cameras are approximately aligned by myself, and I assemble the camera. You can adjust it on your own. For example, if you realize I have a big tree on my camera 1, which is facing northward, you can pull the camera a little to higher altitudes because you don't want to record the tree. You can record then more sky, but the software itself will do the astrometry. So at the moment, every first it's taking it's identifying the stars and it's doing the astrometry with sub-pixel accuracy. This is also what we really need for then these trajectory and orbit calculation. You must have sub-pixel accuracy, so you do not have to take care of that. And even like if you switch the camera, if you change the camera, this kind of lens model consists of 2 components. It's the component which describes like the lens itself, how the field of view, how the image is distorted, and other parameters which describe the orientation and rotation of the camera. So even like if you change the camera and it's changing a direction, then half of the lens model is still valid because the lens model itself, the distortion will not change. It will then simply calculate the new direction where the camera is facing. So this is something where you do not have to take care. We just say you should point it approximately north. So there's the northward facing should be approximately north. That makes it easier for us for the orientation, but all the astrometry is done automatically. And there is no need to now exactly align the camera to some point. And to answer the next question about the monthly consumption, about electricity and maybe also about data. So the electricity, I said already, the computer takes about 15 watts and the camera itself also about 15 watts. So all in all, it's about 30 watts that you have to calculate from the complete system. And about data rate or data consumption, We also have some cameras which do not have like permanent internet, like DSL or whatever fiber optics, but also which have a 5G connection. And we usually have cameras with data plan of 10 gigabyte per month, and this is sufficient. We had cases, we had problems a few months ago where suddenly some cameras run mad and uploaded a lot of data on a single day, and this 10 gig data plane was already like consumed by the mid of the month. There have been some extended analysis, and it was not so easy. Markus was also involved, but in the end, actually, we found the root cause. And from what I heard, it's meanwhile really stable. So that with a 10 gig gigabyte per month data plan, you have sufficient bandwidth and data rate to support this for a month. So that would be my answer. Like how many data you need, and then also let's see. Okay, have to be in the room. Protect the computer from moisture properly. Okay. Maybe in principle. One word about the place where to operate a camera. Of course, it would be perfect if you have like a perfect observing site with perfect horizon and dark skies and no big city in the vicinity, but that's definitely not a must. In the end, I mean, we are all amateurs. We cannot select Pic de Midi or any other perfect place. We have to take what we get. And if we have a look at your cameras, and I said we have like the live image in the internet, you can see that each camera has some trees over here or some other building over there. So don't be worried if you do not have a perfect observing site. It's still usually sufficient for us. Of course, if you're in the middle of a city and you have skyscrapers all around you, that's not a good site. But we even have cameras in major cities like Bremerhaven or other cities, so where we have some light pollution, or where we have other buildings, other trees blocking some part of the field of view. That's just life. Look for the best site that you can get, but it's not really hindering if your site is not a site with perfect astronomical horizon. So hopefully that answers also the question about the selection of the observing site.
Possibly one additional question in this context could be whether it's possible to mask a certain region in one
Good
camera, so that we are not observing, let's say, neighbors. Yeah,
yes, of course. Yeah, the question was also asked before. There are actually two options. One option is that the camera itself that has some web user interface that allows you to mask certain regions. So I think you can mask up to 4 rectangular regions, and that helps you if you have your neighbor's house inside your field of view. You can physically mask it in the camera. So already the video signal which is shipped from the camera is just showing black there. And then we have some kind of soft masking, let me call it. If you do not want to block it directly in the video signal, we could still block it in our processing software. So also there you can mask certain region and say, so this is like a tree in the foreground, this is a house in the foreground. Please do not use this for processing. Also this works out. So yes, we can provide a solution if you have your neighbor's house nearby and wanna mask it. And sorry, I just read here the end of the question. So does the computer have to be inside a room, or can it be also outside? Well, I would say it should be in a protected space. Not necessarily really a house or a room in a house. It could be also like a box which is closed, which is sealed, that it's not really raining, because all the computer itself is creating a lot of heat. And we have colleagues who are running the computer inside the dome of their observatory, which also has no heating, and there may be nighttime temperature in the freezing zone. So this is also not an issue. I would not maybe operate it like in Scandinavia with minus 50 degree under strong wind. That the little guy may not survive, but like an observatory unheated, or if you have a box which at least is protected from rain or something, that should also be sufficient.
Okay, thank you. So I see Sergejs, the owner of Lielzeltiņa Observatory, very nice place for astronomical observations, Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. Very good
I saw
yeah.
Sergey has posted the initial hello, and right now there are additional questions.
Yeah. So let me first answer the questions here in the chat. So the material is made from acrylic. Of course, we are not acrylic experts. We have now the experience from 5 or 6 years of operating these cameras, and indeed they are good quality. They have not become like yellowish and lost a lot of transparency. And yes, we have indeed one team member, since we are a company who is going for plastics and for this kind of material checked, and he confirmed that really we get a good vendor in China who is providing good quality at very reasonable price. Although the dome is just like about $20 of the overall cost. So long story short, they are good. They are also a long time resistant. At least like after 5 or 6 years, we do not see any degradation which would force us to replace the dome. Is question okay? Traced and collected meteorites ownership regulated by terms and conditions. Yeah, okay, very good point. That is not an easy question to be answered. To recover meteorite, it does not fully belong to your own. Why is that? Because even if your camera has recorded this, in the end, it was the recovery of the meteorite was like many helping hands which were involved, which was starting with the developing of the hardware, with the development of the software, starting with you as the one who bought the camera, who operated the camera, starting with all the guys who are running the network, with all the other, with your neighbors, because typically it takes more than one camera to really record the fireball, calculate the trajectory. So it's an effort of many, and so in the end, if there is a meteorite fall, it should also belong to many. And for this reason, we have set up extra terms and conditions of what we call our AllSky7 meteorite working group. You also find this on our homepage. And the rule of thumb is, I can tell you it's right now. And we will use the 30% to do the scientific work, send it to the institute that they're doing isotope analysis and so on, and also make it available to public, to science. Relies on our data, then we expect you to give something back. And this is put down in these specific terms and conditions, as I said, in order to be fair, that not, and I mean, this is also things that we experienced during Rierbeck. This is always not so easy. Meteorite can be quite expensive, can mean a lot of money that it's worth, and then
at least it seems that Sirko's communication issues might be of might have some issue. Okay, so we have here on call other members of the team, and meanwhile possibly so let me check. At least I see Peter Lindner is here. So you as user of such AllSky7 camera, what can you say? Let's say how much work daily or weekly you require to sort out the results, or what you should do? What's your experience here?
Sirko is back.
Okay.
The work is not so much. Every day I go into the system and I look through the videos, and with the IA it works better, much better, because in the beginning when there was snow, I have had in every night 6,000 meteors but it was only slow, and now it works very better, very good.
I was somehow thrown out of the call. I don't know why. It just said.
Welcome to Germany.
Sirko, during the Q&A session, your answers were slightly interrupted by some internet artifacts, possibly some internet connection issues. I'm just asking Peter about the daily effort required to sort out this information.
My answer would be actually twofold. The minimum that you have to do as a camera operator is to buy a camera and install the camera at your site or at some remote site and provide the Ethernet and the power supply. That is a minimum. If we say that's it, I do not have more time, I cannot do anything else, we are fine with it. Of course, you are invited, you are welcome to actively support us, for example, checking your data, and that's what Peter said, that takes, I don't know, 5 to at most 10 minutes per day to quickly browse through the recordings that your camera has done. Even after AI, there will be some fault detection and throw these out. And if you want to become more active, of course, you can join the community, can do something with the data, grab yourself the NLC data, do some analysis, have a look at the red sprites, whatever. So we are highly interested if people are not just joining and providing observations, but also support us to do something with it. It's really up to you. But the minimum is that you buy a camera and operate a camera. Of course, you can also join us without having your own camera. But there is no need, if you don't have the time to take care of the observations yourself, you do not have to. This is something that we can take over. We have a big community, and there are people who say, I have my own camera, I wanted to do more, and then which can help, for example, to then also check data of other cameras.
Okay. We have
one
more
question. Use, yes, that is definitely allowed. In the end, it's your computer. You can do with it what you like. It's it is also open. I mean, that's also a difference to Freeport, for example. In Freeport, you get a computer, but you do not have direct access to the computer. No, in our case, your computer, it's running Ubuntu. You have a root access. You can do anything you like. Actually, on the other hand, you cannot run like arbitrary complex software on the computer because it's just a small computer and it is already on a quite heavy load just for the daily operation, for the meteor detection. And now if you run your own AI model or something, it will probably break down. So if you want to do something complex, the idea would you write a little script which copies the data like onto another computer, and then you can run your own software. But in principle, you are fine. You can do this. And again, the terms and uses, what is allowed, what is not allowed. Of course, you can share all your recordings that you are doing. You can put them on your homepage, for example, if you want to doing advertisement for it. You only have to be careful if they are really like specific events which could also be of monetary value. For example, recordings of fireballs which may cause meteorites, because there's then a vivid community of meteorite hunters who are grabbing data from the internet, doing their own calculations, and before we even arrived at the strewn field, they're already there and collecting the meteorites. So if there are really special events which have some business value, we should be careful. Then the minimum requirement is that the videos which are shared, for example, with the news, that they are watermarked with our AllSky7 watermark, because we have seen it again also this year. There was a bright fireball in Portugal. It was big in the press, and even ISA, where we have one camera station, they made a press release, and of course they forgot about putting our watermark, and then this was shared multiple times, and everyone was telling, this is my video, look at it, how nice, and no one really had the connection that this was actually done by an AllSky7 network. So there we have to be careful, but in principle, you are free. Either your nighttime videos, your time-lapse videos, your 10 most beautiful meteors of the night, you can share it without any restrictions. It's really if these special events which cause huge attraction, which may have some business value, where there are some restrictions.
One of obvious projects we would be interested in to use it for triangulation of noctilucent clouds. And therefore, next question is, the images that we might get would be in we should extract them from video, or we might have some let's say some periodic image files saved that we could retrieve further on for analysis.
So first of all, I mean, what you get from the software from Mike is the software is automatically processing the video files, creating like snippets from the meteors, doing all the calibration. This is all done in some internal format. Yes, we are your own. Each station has its own like web page. You can also download calibration images, and then you see the coordinate grid which you could superimpose to your image, and you could calculate this pixel is altitude, latitude, this pixel is altitude, azimuth, and so on. But things are also changing here. For example, Michael Frühauf has just written some piece of Python code which allow you to download the video files, to create stacked images, to create time-lapse movies, and this software is open source, is for free. I have started to write some code back in just before summer, which will create these full dome projections from individual images so that you can create 180-degree view. And I also rely, this is also Python code, this is available to everyone. This relies on the calibration model of Mike. So I actually read the calibration file and processed it and used it for creating this information. It's not yet perfect because particularly the photometry is not working so nice. In principle, this works out. And right now, I'm writing another piece of code which is doing the flux calculation. So it will compute the limiting magnitude. And also this requires that I read the calibration, the lens model, and that I'm able to transform X and Y into altitude azimuth. Long story short, no open API by Mike, but this information is available and can be used. And I have also example code that I can share. So if you want to do your NLC analysis, I could provide you with a Python module which would allow you to create the lens model or read the lens model, the inverse lens model, and then you can do with it what you like to do. Take your own image, superimpose the grid, or measure it with your own software. So this is available, not as an open API, but the information is there and we know how to extract it. And Mike is, of course, supporting this as well.
During our NLC project, we used this crowdsourcing approach, and we had quite moderate requirements. So that we required only 3 stars to be visible at the same time as those clouds are seen as well. But this processing was a bit time-consuming because there was this manual adjusting and determining the coordinate grid. But if let's say those stations are fixed and we are not moving around those cameras, then this
that's
is certainly improved.
Exactly.
And to be made as some streamline activity.
This is I mean, since the camera is not moving, so this is fixed, you calculate the lens model, you take it from the previous night when it was fully clear or some weeks ago, and then you have exactly the lens model, and you can take your NLC image and you know exactly what point is what azimuth, and you can recompute that and then doing the triangulation. And how's time stamping done for the video frames? Yes, we are using NTP, so the timestamping is done by the computer, and it's not really that accurate. So I would say like half a second to up to 1 second accuracy, which is fully sufficient for NLC, which is sometimes an issue for fireballs when you want to have frame synchronization. This is something which we are currently working on, thinking on. As I said, we are still thinking about hardware improvement, and just the other week at the IMC, we were discussing if we could integrate a GPS receiver into the camera which would allow us on the one hand to really give us a precise location, because this is what we learned over the previous years. Often we do not have really the precise location of the camera down to a meter, and then if you're doing triangulation, you will find all kinds of strange errors. It was not the camera, it was just the position of the camera which was unknown, and which also might help us to get a more accurate timestamp. But at the moment, it's NTP on the computer, and you have an accuracy of a little below than 1 second, I would say.
Okay. You mentioned that your interest is not so much those fireballs, but also sort of ordinary meteors. So is there already some module that calculates 3D positions of those meteor trails?
This is all available. This is done all automated. In fact, the astrometry and photometry is done by the software from Mike, and then for the trajectory calculation and the orbits, we are using the code from Western University, from Dennis Vidar, which is also used in Global Meteor Network. So this is all there, but it's not yet perfect. For example, after the astrometry, once the information is fed into this UWO code, about 50% of the cases fail because some misalignment or the station is not exactly known where it is. So there's still a relatively higher rate where data is not automatically processed, and we do not yet know how precise is the results that we get. So in principle, the building blocks are there, but we do not yet believe in the accuracy. It would need some more time to spend really until this is all checked, and then we can also publish the catalog of thousands of trajectories and orbits that we obtained. So this is one of the many projects. Mike is dancing on many wedding parties. Unfortunately, this is my favorite wedding party where he is not seen too often, but I hope that I can push him also into the direction that also this part, science of ordinary meteor showers, will be like really release ready, that we have really scientific data available and not so distant future.
Yeah, as from our recent experience, where Juris did this 3D modeling of the meteor trajectory from a Perseid shower, and then later on through generating this KML file, it is very nice to move around in 3 dimensions. This track and to see how it's superimposed.
In principle, it's all there. It's all there, and we even have also the data already, at least partly. I don't know, probably not accurate to the latest months, but a lot of data is already processed. But this is something which is not yet published because it's still in some working state. To be honest, it's not ready to be released.
Okay, so it will be after some time, certainly.
I hope so. I'm constantly pushing.
Okay.
Yes.
Additional question.
Include the computer. So the price that I mentioned, the base price, €1,350 plus shipping plus VAT. This includes the computer. This includes the camera, and the computer is pre-installed, so more or less plug and play. What you have to provide, again, is the mounting. It's a water pipe. A 1-inch water pipe is sufficient, mounted at your wall or wherever you like. You put the camera on top. Here I have one of the cameras sitting beside me. Here, this is the lower side of the camera. So you just put it on the water pipe. You fix it here with some screw, and then you have the Ethernet cable, which you plug in here at this part of the camera. You have to provide the Ethernet cable. The Ethernet cable is plugged or is connected from the computer to from the camera to the computer. This is what you have to provide, and again, the power and the internet connection. For the Ethernet cable, there was another question raised earlier: how long can the cable be? So what is the maximum distance between the computer and the camera? So we have no problems with like 10, 20, 25 meters. Beyond that, it may start to get tricky. We have already setups in the past with like 60 or 70 meter distance, but over that long distance, the voltage drop becomes so large that the voltage supply is not high enough. So you may need to feed higher voltage into the cable that really 24 volts reach the camera. So 20, 30 meters is fine. Above that, there may be some additional measures required to really keep the voltage at the required level.
It should be sufficient, basically, to install the computer inside the house and to lay out the cable till the top.
In most cases, it's sufficient, indeed. Yeah.
There's another question about the routine maintenance required.
Okay. Well, in fact, there's hardly any routine maintenance. We really operate a number of cameras completely remotely. For example, I was living in Bavaria, having the camera here in Berlin, like at 500-kilometer distance, and visit the camera only like after 3 or 4 months. So it's really running fully autonomously. About dirt, like birch or something, if there's a next rain, it will usually clean the dome. We have some cases where guys are living directly at the border of the North Sea, and if the seagulls are leaving too much dirt on the camera, yes, every now and then you may need cleaning, but under ordinary condition, it is not required. As for restart, that indeed may be required every now and then. So yes, the computer hangs up every now and then. What we have done in these cases where we really have a remote setup, we have like remotely controlled power switch. So the power switch is connected to your local Wi-Fi, and then I have simply a smartphone app where I can shut down the power and power it up again. That will help us then in cases the computer hangs up to make sure that you do not have to go on site and start it manually, but that will help to power cycle the computer and the camera. And as you write here, would it be possible to leave the system running in a place where you go a few times a year? That's definitely the case. We have done that in the past and it works out.
Okay, thank you. So I already shared before our call to you the approximate situation we have in our country, how many cameras we would need based on the information you provided. So that there is this suggestion to have some 100 to 150 kilometers between those stations. So it's just a rough illustration. For example, if you put on a map some circles of 100 kilometer radiuses, and one of circles has center around the Lielzeltiņa, because I know that Sergei has interest in the camera. But then I placed other cameras in some other locations. It seems some 6 cameras would be optimal if we let's say use this 100 kilometer radius as basis. If we change it to 125 kilometers, so again here not quite exact, but I used one center point in Jelgava, or around that. Another is Lielzeltiņa, and another is in Burtnieki, where we have some guys, and then in eastern part of our country. Then we might then let's say it would be sufficient to use some 4 cameras. But if let's say we try to aim for maximum visibility, but at the same time we want to use the least number of cameras possible, then I would say it could be 3 cameras. But my personal feeling is that over time possibly we would need let's say at least some 5 cameras so that to cover our country. And the next question is that it would be useful also to install cameras in a way that we are not just focusing on our country alone, so that we could share our observations in the whole network, and this connection goes here to Lithuania, and I don't know about Gotland, whether there are any cameras currently, and then Estonia, and we couldn't work directly, possibly with Finland, but at least any camera we use goes outside our territory as well, so that to cooperate as one joint network. So these are, let's say, some rough ideas on how many cameras would we need exactly for our country.
As I said before we started the meeting, of course, we would be happy if there are 5 cameras or 6 cameras in Latvia, but also 3 cameras would be totally fine, or even if they're just like 1 or 2, because we have Markus' camera nearby. Let's start small. Our network also started with 3 cameras, and now you see, meanwhile, we have like in Germany alone like 40, 50 cameras. So it's evolve over time. And if we have at least 2 or 3 stations which somehow overlap, and even if the distance is bigger than 150 kilometer, you can already provide valuable data, and then maybe over time in your country or neighbor countries we get more stations. In Finland we also have new operators who are interested at the other sea, at the other shore of the Baltic Sea. I would not really worry if not right from start you have like 5 stations. If you start with 2 or 3, that would be perfect. And over time, maybe there come more.
Okay. Yeah.
I
was thinking that our questions have been asked, but yes, there's one more.
Yeah, I was checking. I was checking
I
was just checking the list. Which question I didn't have an answer. Let me quickly go through these. So one question was, how does the initial training of the system work? How much work does it require? So I mean, that could be a training of the camera, and that could be the training of the operator. As for the camera, it's typically just automatic. You know, as soon as the camera is installed, it will start to collect calibration data, and it should automatically then create these calibration files. Every now and then, it requires, like Markus, to trigger something if it's not working correctly. But usually it should self-contained, so the system should train itself and improve itself. And about the trainer, about the camera operator, there's also not really a lot of training required. I mentioned before we have these regular corners via Zoom. The last one where we did training is about a year ago, so maybe we will do another one over the next 2 or 3 months. But we have recorded it. And if you go to our mailing list, you can watch the recording by that time. And there we explain in detail how the hardware looked like, how it works, how the software looks like. And that will probably answer like 90% of your questions. Unfortunately, there is not really a good handbook which explains everything. We really have to use these kind of media. Once in operation, is it possible to get remote technical support? A clear yes. As soon as you give us access, we can take care of the camera. And the easiest way to give us access is if you clear port 22 for SSH access, port 80 is required that the camera or the computer itself will renew its own SSL certificates. 443, so HTTPS is required, that you have access to your own web interface, and ideally, not mandatory, port 3389, which is for Microsoft Remote Desktop. So if these 4 ports are cleared, it's perfect. If at least port 22 is cleared, this allows us to access your system and to help you if there's anything not working, to help you with some initial configuration issues. That's the easiest case for us. We have universities, museums, institutes, we say, sorry, we cannot open port 22 anything to internet. Where we have other solutions like TeamViewer, like AnyDesk, like OpenVPN, you name it. We are not happy about this because each individual solution for us as a support team is causing extra trouble. So for us, it would be ideal if, as I said, certain ports can be opened to the internet. If that is given, we can support you, and we will support you if there are any problems with a computer.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to combine the images from the 7 cameras in a smooth photosphere? Yes, it is. I mentioned that already quickly. I created a software, time permitting. I will also improve this, but this is meanwhile available. You just can download the raw HD video files plus the calibration files, and then you run this Python code. It takes ages on your computer, but it will create these sphere time-lapse movies as you like. We are working on this. Is it possible to create time-lapse of the sky? It's not part of Mike's software, but this was the first piece of code that Michael has written. It's also available as freeware, as open source software. You can use this. It's simple Python code. You can adjust it to your own needs. So yes, this is available and this can be used. If a potential fall of meteorites, again, talking about this meteorite story, maybe to add one thing here. So what is our main idea also about this meteorite working group? Our main idea is not that we want to steal anyone's meteorite. So if there would be a meteorite fall in Latvia, we would support you as our local team to the best of our abilities, that you are successful, that you are the first one on site, and that you find the meteorite. That's really our idea, not that everyone from Germany or from Hungary or from elsewhere in the world is traveling to Latvia, but you should do it, and we will support you to the best. And if the meteorite falls to Germany, then we get also support, the German hunters, and of course we had also colleagues from nearby countries, and also other camera operators are invited to join. Really, the idea is that in the end, not the single lucky man who then finds a stone says, I keep it all for my own, but that we can make sure that there's also certain fraction of the finding given to science for doing the analysis, given to public institutions, and also to share it somewhat with the network. That's the whole idea behind this. And it's drafted in these working group terms and conditions. You will find it there. Example of triangulations would be useful videos, images from AllSky7 stations. Yes, we can provide this. We have these automatically processed data. We have it also particularly for like these bright fireballs. So we can provide this data for Ribbeck or for other famous finds. Just let us know what you need, and we can make it available if this is good for for advertisement or for whatever reason can be made available. Is it possible to adjust the sensitivity of cameras through software for multiple purposes? Yes, this is possible, and we do it actually. For example, as I mentioned, Mike, every 2 hours is for a few seconds changing the sensitivity. So he is getting an image with much better limiting magnitude, which he is then using to identify stars doing the astrometry. Actually, I do not like it so much, because if you want to do then a time lapse from the whole night, you have all these fancy frame which look dirty, and it also, this particular case will not be required any longer if my flux software is ready and will be rolled out. We have so many reference stars over the course of the night. We can simply use the standard sensitivity level. Nonetheless, it is possible, and the software, I mean, we have automatic gain control activated so that at daytime, of course, the sensitivity is go down and we can observe daytime objects. And at nighttime, we have high sensitivity to observe nighttime objects. Still, but stacking frames, so to have like half a second of integration time, because we still need like 20 frames per second or 25 frames per second to have a proper trajectory. But yes, in principle, you can adjust the brightness of your camera. It will disturb, of course, the meteor events, but it's technically possible. And in what program language is the code written? It's all done in Python. Could it be modified by the community? I would say yes and no. So the software from Mike is formally not open source for this reason that he says he wants to keep it with the community. It shall be with the AllSky7 community. And I mean, he's also developing most of it on its own. But as I said, I have now started to provide a certain module for limit magnitude calculation. We have guys in Sweden who want to participate and contribute. So I would say this will evolve, and maybe we can also come in the future to some model where also other programmers can contribute. But at least at the moment, at the current state, it's really all done by Mike. And yes, you do have access to the software. It's installed on your computer, but it's not open source. That's the current status. I think that was all the questions which were still open from the work.
Excellent. And I see there's one more question from Carlos asking about camera in Lithuania, and I will open the map and
just open our homepage, and you can scroll in there, and Marcus can probably explain
this
exactly.
Is from the homepage. We can see the network here
and if you click on
Germany,
if you
Hungary.
click on the camera, then you click get also some details.
And we can see that there's still potential for additional cameras in Poland as well, because clearly there must be some link between this group and this group.
There are certain problematic countries. So one problematic country is obviously France. If you look at our map, France is a big country with just one camera. Yes, because they have their Eiropā network and they are not really supportive to us. So we really have to wait until some France amateur says, "Hey, I'm interested in this camera." And same with Poland. Poland has also Polish fireball network with a long history. So people are not really keen and open. But you see that meanwhile we have already 4 stations deployed in Poland, and time permitting, we will also get more. So
strangely enough, 2 cameras are at the very border.
By chance, but that's really by pure chance. So if we have one more, maybe near Warsaw, and one near Gdansk, Gdynia, then also Poland would be roughly covered. But of course, we try to get also here, like the 100 to 150 kilometer would be our goal. Just if you know someone in Poland, just do some advertisement for us. If guys are interested, they should get back to me, and we are happy to sell. So you see, Germany, I will not sell anymore, but in Poland, or maybe just in the very northeastern corner of Germany, maybe one more, but much more to Poland or to the Baltic states. We are much more interested to deploy cameras there.
So, and answer to that Lithuanian camera question is that it's roughly some 40 kilometers from Vilnius in direction of Trakai, which is like a popular tourist destination.
What about Italy is a question. Also Italy, we have unfortunately just one station like in the Rome area, and one more station where it's actually, I think it's in Switzerland, very close to the Italian border. Again, also the Italian guys, they have their own camera networks. They have a large installation of Eiropā cameras. Every now and then I'm approached by someone who says, "Well, I'm interested, I can operate," but then after some times they're disappearing. So time will tell. I'm really waiting. And if guys are approaching us, and if they say, "I come from Italy," I say, "Yes, please join us." Also you see like the southeast German countries, Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia. There's also a big gap. We just recently started now. You see in Greece, we have a number of stations. They're isolated at the moment. Of course, my hope is also that at some time we can somehow link them to the cameras in Hungary. But that really depends, that we find people in these countries who are interested, who want to either operate, sponsored, or even buy their own camera, and then we will extend the network.
Okay, it's I'm pretty sure that we'll have cameras in our country. It was sort of surprised that Lithuania was earlier than we, because I already started to think about this sometime in spring this year, but for sure we'll work towards finding out the locations, interested people, and also funding to set up cameras in our country.
And I'm pretty sure that also cameras in southern Sweden will be helpful to you. We have already one there near Stockholm, and if we get some more like to the southeast of Sweden, that is
could be on
even
Gotland.
Even if it's like 300 or 400 or even 500 kilometers away, that would still be helpful to really get double station observations. I mean, all the meteorites that fall into the Baltic Sea, well, bad luck, we won't see them. So your chance is not only looking towards Poland or towards Estonia, Lithuania, but also like Finland or Sweden. I believe you would have chances for double station observations with you.
Okay. I should say thank you very much. So these were almost 2 hours of exciting information and lots of ideas providing to us, and lots of things to think about, and actually quite inspiring.
I hope so.
So I don't know whether there's anything else that.
I just typed my email address into the chat. So in case you want to know more, if I shall invite you to our mailing list, again, this is open to everyone. There you can listen to the other observers or exchange ideas, ask questions, or in the end, if you want to order a camera or interested, just approach me directly, and we are happy to help you. And yeah, we would of course highly welcome to have the first and maybe the first 2 or 3 cameras in your country. It would significantly extend our effort to the northeast of Germany, of Europe.
And I should say a big thanks also to Peter, who introduced me to this AllSky7 network as such, and I started to study those materials and got into contact with you, and we arranged this presentation here, so that I hope everything will go on, and after a year or so we could have some possibly overview on how we succeeded with first cameras set up.
Martin, I will share the slide with you. I will send it to you by email or so. So if you want to put it on your homepage or share it with the members, you're free to do. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will publish. Okay, and right now I'm switching back into Latvian, so we'll have some final minutes of our meeting.
Thank you very much. I will leave. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.